Well, thank you so much for staying with us here on Morning Live. Now, Billy Guy Bhembe is a young community activist and the founder of Black Child It's Possible movement. And he says that South Africa is currently sick and in the need of restoration and strengthening, and I don't think many will disagree. Well, Bhembe has written a letter to President Ramaphosa, and he wrote this because he's disturbed by a range of issues challenging the country at the moment. And with his organization working closely with communities and schools as well as prisons, he says that the country does have skilled young people, but their only sin is being non-partisan in a country where political affiliation is a ticket to opportunities. Now, Billy Guy Bhembe, founder and CEO of Black Child It's Possible, joins us now for a conversation about this. Thank you so much for coming through.
It's only a pleasure. Thank you.
I'm so glad that we have an opportunity to actually discuss this particular matter, because very often it becomes very abstract and you know, we are speaking way above the people and the issues to whom this actually pertains. So what prompted you to actually take on this particular matter?
I think, Sakina, for the longest time, and thank you for this opportunity, first of all, to Morning Live, and for the longest time, young people have been ignored. And how so? I started Black Child It's Possible in 2009, and this started from my own life story, where I had grown up in Ekurhuleni. I came from a very poor family, but I wanted to sort of change the odds, which for many young people, we try and emulate where we grew up. So if you grow up with uncles, brothers, those that we see, even when stepping out of your house this morning, are sitting at the corner and have not reached a certain level in life, we sort of think that is where most of us, our lives are going to end. So I went against the status quo. I've always challenged what society deems to be normal. And it's not normal for black people to be poor. It's not normal for us to live in shacks. It's not normal for us to be uneducated. What we forget is that we're actually liberated to be CEOs of these companies. We're liberated to be leaders of this country. We're liberated to come up with the most creative African solutions, which many of us possess. So when I started Black Child It's Possible, it was with an answer, because 10 years ago, I had already started speaking about the fact that there's an ill, particularly amongst our leadership. And if you look, young people will always emulate what you do, not what you say. We can speak in South Africa about solutions, but until we begin doing, it is only then that we'll see things change. So when I started this whole concept of saying, let me write to the president, I began even by saying, I am literally shaking as I type each key, and not because of fear, but faith that I and many other young South Africans are standing here at the president's disposal, and many other leaders who are out there. There are corporate leaders. There are people who sit and run CSI initiatives, some that have not worked out in the longest time. We are currently working with a foundation where we are busy with doing surveys in the Free State for 300 schools to fit in ICT equipment in that school. But what we've also come to see on the ground is that there are a lot of companies who are simply just ticking the box, placing things there without actually going back to see if these things are being utilized. You find schools saying they've got 800 iPads that are just sitting there for over 2 years, and yet we're saying the fourth industrial revolution. So what actually needs to happen right now is we need to engage, not only in just talk, but real action. Every single day, there are people like myself who wake up and make the African child's success their agenda. We are unselfish in our ways because we understand that if I make someone else's life better, South Africa will become better. If you start serving all individuals who are watching today, if you start serving just a single person, start embettering a single person, we can have 50 million South Africans who are positive, who are productive, and most importantly, who are solution-driven. So my writing of this letter to the president was to say, I am raising my hand. You spoke about Tuma Mina. We are currently saying there are many of us who do not belong to an ANC, a DA, or an EFF, but we are so committed to South Africa. We are so committed to the success of this country. When I watch the likes of Trevor Noah, for example, I was making a joke to my girlfriend saying, Trevor Noah was at my 21st birthday. And someone like Salamina Musese, she was also at my 21st birthday. These are people that make me think, I once interacted with these people, and they are currently flying our flag up there in the world. If I am a founder of Black Child It's Possible, possible, saying to many that it is possible. Your Trevor Noahs and many others who have gone out there have not just said it, they've shown us it is possible.
But of course, it is a consciousness that one cultivates.
Yeah.
It's not something that just happens, because people's lived realities are just that. And sometimes it's dark, it is dingy, it is depressing, but you can't get out of it because it all happens in here.
Yeah.
I read a book, some time ago, and it said it only takes 1 minute to change your mind. And it takes that 1 minute to change your mind and change your life.
Yeah.
And it's a consciousness is what I'm coming to, speaking to this book that you have published, Inspiration on the Go. And just tell us what this is about.
Well, when I wrote this book, Inspiration on the Go, it was a very simple one. When I grew up, and my late mother, whom I do a lot of my work in dedication and honor of her name was Bhembe, and she stood for a lot of good things. When I wrote this book, I said to myself, my mother did what a lot of parents currently in South Africa are not doing for their children. She used to hold my chin, and when I would look to each side, she'd say, look me in the eye, and she would say, Mudimu obetse dintotse kholo, which translated is God has placed great things in store for you. Now, I believed that the situation or my environment may not have reflected that, but because my mother, whom for most children, our first mentors, our first heroes are our parents. Now, if parents understand the duty that they have, my mother did that for me. So when I wrote this book, I realized there are many young South Africans who are child-headed homes, so there isn't a Provia like myself who will stand up and say to you every morning, Mudimu bets in Totse Hole. So I wanted to become that. I wanted them to have a book that they can have in their blazer pocket, in their school bag, where they could pull it out when an exam is showing them flames. They pull it out and something says, I can aim higher than the sky. They can open things and realize that, I can dream. It's free to dream. My dream is as unique as my fingerprint. So these are the things that I wanted to instill in the African child. But over and above that, there were things that I started noticing in my community, and I had a problem with them. I became successful at a young age, not just financially, but successful in the form of even networks. I would find myself doing business in a community. I'll give you an example, Sakina. I was in the Sharpeville massacres. There was one of the years where I was contracted to actually do the exhibition stand for where all old people would come in and tell stories of what happened. I was very disappointed that day because I had contractors who were now putting together the structures. But here's our young people who do not take on opportunities. You'd hear people saying, hey man, I'm sure and that's an understanding that this is not for us. It's not meant for us. And I actually made it a point to notify these young people that I am 23 years old and I'm the one who got this contract to do this. But I would like to advocate that next time you fight for yourself as a young person to get a contract like this in your community, you understand your problems better. You understand your solutions better. So this is the kind of mind frame I would love to instill in young people. Not to just put up their hands, but to say, I too can bring forth the solution. But to our adults, can they also listen to our youth?
You need to multiply, I tell you, because this is exactly what so many people in this country need, because there is such a sense of helplessness, and really it is worth everything. And I can attest to this because I started by reading something similar to this all the time when I felt myself becoming negative. And remember, there's nothing noble in struggle, because very often as people, and as black people in particular, we tend to think that if we struggle, we even compare our struggles, that there's some nobility in that. None whatsoever. There's nothing noble about struggle. But thank you so much to Billy Guy Bhembe, founder and CEO of Black Child. It is possible, a concerned citizen who wrote a letter to the president seeking an audience about concerns regarding South Africa's current state. And thank you so much for that uplifting message, Billy Guy.